If you are currently in the market to sell your property, you may have noticed that the days on market has increased significantly compared to last year. In fact, I Googled this morning, currently as of June 5th, 2025, the average days on market for homes in the US is 92 days, which is a significant increase from the previous year. And as I mentioned in my last two videos, when we broke down in deeper depth what's going on in this brutal buyer's market and some of the issues that homeowners who are looking to sell are experiencing, today we're going to talk about some things that you can do to give yourself a fighting chance to stand out and sell your property and kind of offset some of the things that's going on in the market if you are looking to sell. So what I want to do here is go through a few properties and we're going to take a look at a few things. And I'm going to give you a few tips that you can do to ensure that you give yourself a fighting chance. And we're going to look at a couple of properties to see some things that sellers have done right and the results that they have gotten from doing some strategic things when it came to listing their property. And then we're going to also look at some properties where sellers did a couple of things wrong, or even real estate agents who they worked with did some things wrong. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips and things that you can do here in today's video. So the first property that we're going to look at here is this property. It is located in, let's see, it's located in Florida, Ocala, Florida, which I'm not familiar with it. So if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please forgive me. And as you can see, this property is priced at 269,000. And it also just had a $15,000 price reduction. And that's another trend that I'm starting to notice. There is an abundance of properties that are listed currently. And I mentioned that in my previous video, how one of the main reasons we know that is a buyer's market currently because there is a substantial amount of properties that's for sale versus enough the amount of buyers that's on the market to buy currently. So what we're seeing is a lot of price reductions. What we're seeing is a lot of extended days on market, and that just makes the environment very traumatic, or may I say frustrating, for someone who is looking to sell their property. And this property right here, one of the main reasons why they probably had to go in and the real estate agent probably had to talk the seller into a price reduction is because, as you can see here, this property has been sitting on the market for 111 days. And I've been looking at some data this morning and I've seen a trend with properties being reduced. And the funny thing about it is I've seen some properties reduced as much as up to 50,000, 60,000, 75,000, depending on what the asking price is. But I also seen a couple of properties where it was reduced $1,000, $2,000, or $5,000. And what I noticed about that is those situations are probably when the realtor is advising their client. They're like, okay, the property's been sitting on the market for quite some time. We're not getting any bites. We're not getting any offers. Let's go ahead and reduce that property. And as stubborn as sellers are right now, which I also spoke about when we went over that article in my last video. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out. The last two videos, actually, I spoke on this topic. So if you haven't seen those yet, I'll go ahead and pin them at the end of the video, or I'll put them here somewhere or in the description so you can get access to them very quickly. Where buyers are still I'm sorry, not buyers, sellers are still in a shell shock from the how the market has been post pandemic, and how there was an abundance. There was a period of time where sellers were getting bidding wars, and they were getting, these large offers, and they were getting more than they're asking. And I think a lot of sellers are still in that state, and they're still not accepting what the market and what the data and the information is telling us right now. And that's making them very stubborn, because they're asking what they're asking, and they want what they want, and I understand 100% why that is. So what you're having here is realtors having to advise these clients. So after these properties are sitting for an extended period of time, they're having to advise them, maybe we should go in and reduce the price a little bit. And a lot of these sellers are very stubborn, and they don't want to do it. Hence why we're seeing, some very small reductions. They're like, I want 300,000. I guess you can go down to 299.9 or something like that, or just 299,000. I'll take 1,000 off. And what this does, it doesn't make the property attractive. It doesn't put the property in a light where buyers are going to be intrigued to even look. So that is actually going to hurt when you have to go in and reduce your price on your property. That actually is going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. You're much more well off pricing the property ahead of time, and pricing the property right ahead of time, and going in that way, where you don't have to go back and piggyback around in hopes, because that just screams desperation to the market. Okay. When you have to lower your standards, or you have to go back and reduce your price, that just screams you're desperate. Nobody wants your property. It's not selling, and now you're backtracking. And a strategy that I learned early on in my career, which I'm going to share with you all right now, is it's a much better look. Let's say you want 300,000 for your property. It's a much better look to price your property at 250 and let people say, "Wow, they only want 250. I'm going to go make an offer." And what that does, it drives a bidding war. And people will say, "Oh, the 250 is a great deal for that house." And you have a better chance of people driving that 250 up to 300,000, and then you see where you fall. You might land at 275, you may land at 285, and your property is still much more quicker, versus if you list at 300,000 and you don't get any bites, and then someone do come in and they offer you maybe 265 or 260, and as you see, you get 260 versus 285. So that's a little strategy that you guys can use. Keep that in your tool belt. um, it's better to list actually lower and make your property more attractive and drive the price up, versus listing high and having to backtrack and reduce your price and have your property look like kind of weird in the marketplace, and people will start thinking, well, what's wrong with the property? Why they're reducing it? Why is no one biting on it? So what we're going to go through right now is look at this property, and we're going to break down why this property is sitting on the market for 111 days, why they had to drop the price drop the price 15K. And I can tell you off the bat, just looking at this property, let's go through some photos. Not a bad looking property. Obviously, it's a fixer upper. The the maintenance of the lawn, the landscaping looks fine. As you can see, the property is outdated. It needs a tremendous amount of updates. You can see the cabinets are old, the colors are ugly, the floors is ugly. I have no clue why they have this just random couch, this random chair sitting in the middle of the kitchen. I have no clue why they just didn't sit it out on the lawn with the rest of the trash. That is not a good look. Like, even look here. Whatever this is on the wall, I'm not sure what it is. It may be a thermostat, it may be a phone system. I honestly I don't know. But what I do know, it looks old. It looks tremendously old. And this property just needs updates, and that's fine. But one good thing that they did do here, I wouldn't do anything else to this property. In my last video, I also broke down things that you can do. And we're going to talk about that in today's video too, just to make your property more attractive. And I did give some tips. But the tips that I would give on this property, just looking at these photos, I wouldn't tell them to do anything. They did a really great job of making sure this place is clean. Everything looks immaculate. Very clean, even though the carpet is dirty and it's old. I wouldn't touch it. They did a great job of getting this property ready to post to list on the market. And that's my first tip. If you're looking to give yourself a fighter's chance in this brutal buyer's market, the first thing I would suggest is just do the pre-work and lay the proper foundation. And this property owner and the real estate agent that listed did a really good job. Make sure you clean. Step one, make sure you clean and declutter the property. Before you do anything else, just start with the basics, a deep clean, and decluttering any trash, any old functioning items, broke items, just to make the space feel fresher and more inviting. And if you could, one thing they could have done if they had some paint laying around in the garage, they could have painted these walls, not these walls, I'm trying to go back, in the kitchen. They could have painted them. That's the only thing I possibly would have suggested if they had some paint laying around. But I wouldn't go out and purchase paint to do that. I wouldn't do that. I don't think the ROI would be worth it, even if it's just like a little bit of paint. I wouldn't waste my time. But yeah, everything is good besides that random uh sofa chair sitting there. I think they did a fantastic job. So just looking at this property off the top of my head, I know what's wrong. And that goes into the second thing that you need to do. Maybe I'll get rid of this shower curtain. It's pretty ugly. But that goes into the second thing you need to do before listing your property. And that would be just knowing your numbers. Get a real sense of your home's value. Look at the comparable homes that have sold recently and see how your price stacks up. It's tough to sell if you're overpriced, especially right now. And that just goes back to what I, stated earlier. If you list your property at the wrong number, it could be detrimental to your property's sales success. If you overprice your property, it's going to sit, it's not going to sell. You're going to have to go back to reduce it, and people are going to see your property and they're going to see a red flag. So you don't want to do that. So that is probably what's going on with this property. Like they're including their washer and dryer. They're including a nice refrigerator. I think maybe a stove too, if I remember correctly, that we saw in the kitchen. So it's not a bad property. Like for the right person, this property would be a person would love to have. But that's at the right price. This property needs a lot of work. Like look at this house. Look at the back of this. Like you have one thing going on over here, something completely different going on over here. Like if an investor came in, they're going to have to spend a ton of money to get this property up to par to be able to compete with properties that is selling that's attractive right now to people who can get financing, which is going to be people who want to move into this property, don't want to do any work. People who want turnkey. And we already, found out in my other video that I posted, that is what is selling fast right now. Retail, turnkey, brand new, beautiful HGTV ready properties. And this, unfortunately, is just not it. So they want 269,000. You could pretty much say $270,000 for this property. And what I want to do is show you all some comps. I want to show you some comparable properties because I think it's important and it'll give a lot of context to, what the realtor and also the homeowner is looking at. And I'm going to show you why getting good comps is going to be imperative. So this property right here, so in February for 18,000. I'm sorry. It sold on February 18th for 355,000. So that homeowner probably said, that property down on Southeast Second Lane sold for 355,000. We can at least get 269. But let's look at this property that's sold. First of all, the first thing we have to point out why this isn't a good comp is, first of all, it may not be near it. I have to go and look on the map, but this popped up in the comparable, so I'm using it for this example. But the most important thing is it sold in February. We're in June. The market has changed drastically since then. And when you're looking at your comps and you're running your numbers, make sure you're looking at properties that sold within the last, I would say, 15 days, 30 days max. You never want to go outside of 30 days, because if you go outside of 30 days, it's not a good. But even with that being said, let's look at this property and look at why it's not. Even though this property is also outdated and it is a fixer upper too, but just look at it. Look at the space. This living room looks tremendously different from that last property. Has a fireplace here. It's outdated. We're not going to deny that, but it's just bigger. It's open, and it is just a totally different property. Kitchen still, the appliances are outdated. I'm sure whoever gets this property, they may, refrigerator's nice. They may switch this out, but this is a property that a young couple who moves in here, who maybe wants to do the work themselves, they can live in here today and kind of do the repairs over time if that's something that they wanted to do. So that is also another reason why this property isn't a good comparable. And, compared to that last property, like, even though this wallpaper is old, like, wallpaper was out like 20, wallpaper was in like 20 years ago. Wallpaper is so out right now. And I can't understand why so much US homes still have wallpaper in them. It's beyond me. They're offering a washer and dryer as well. So that's nice. Nice to have. Bathroom is clean. You remember the tub in the last one? Much different than this tub. Not a big deal though, but it's different. Look at this. Look at this sunroom. This is beautiful. That last property did not have a sunroom. Like, this is gorgeous. This is a great feature. And when you running your comps, you have to account for those type of things. It's just not the same. So that seller probably looked at this property and was like, yeah. And also the style of home. This is a very, from just the curb appeal, very beautiful home. You know, that yellow may be in for some, out for others, but it's, like I said, it's something that you can deal with for the time being. And now let's just go to some of the details. It is a 3-bed, 2-bath. This property is 2147 square feet. It's about a little over 2100 square feet. This property is 1968, a little under 2000 square feet. So this one is a little bit smaller. And also, if you notice, this property it's on a 0.28 acres of a lot, 2-car garage, and this property was built in 1976. This property right here was built in 2005, and it's sitting on 0.46 of an acre. So it has a much larger, I won't say much larger, but it has a pretty larger lot. And it is built in the 2000s compared to being built in the 70s. So this isn't a good comp. And this is why this seller that posted this property here that's been sitting for 111 days, they shot themselves in the foot using this property as a comparable. It's not a comparable. And I'm sure that this is one of the properties they probably looked at. So when you're looking at comparables, please keep this in mind. Now let's move on to another comparable. We have this beautiful property right here. It also is in that same city. It sold for 255. So it actually sold for a little less than what they're asking for on this one. And similar size lot. The first one was 0.28. This one is 0.32. Same year. The first one was 1972, I want to say, or was it 76? See, 1976. So actually it was built in the same year. So that's great. It is a different style of house a bit. It's a brick. But I'm sure, and it also, this one sold in February as well. And something that stood out to me why this isn't a great comp, as we look through the pictures, what is the second picture that they show us? A freaking pool. This is huge. A homeowner sees a pool in the backyard. I'm sorry, not a homeowner, a buyer sees a pool in the backyard. They're going to be like, I don't care. Let's get it. It got a freaking pool in the backyard and it's brick and it's sturdy and the landscaping is beautiful. And a buyer is going to be looking at this property as a much more attractive property than that first one. And as we look through, the floors are nicer, walls are cleaner. It's not as outdated, obviously, and you could move in it. And even though it's not turnkey, you can move in it right now and be okay. And look at this carpet. Carpet, I don't know what those things is. That looks cool. But that's an easy fix for someone who wants to move in here and do the work while they're in here. As you can see, there's some type of hole right there, some type of work. Now I do see a bathroom right here. This bathroom looks very outdated, but it's not that bad. Another thing with the wallpaper, like the rooms are very clean, walls are clean, carpet got has to go, obviously, but that's something that you can do in a weekend if this was someone who wants to move in here and live here and fix up as they go. I have no idea why they have two ceiling fans in here. Well, I guess I do. It's not a big enough space for me to put two uh ceiling fans in there. But that's me. Popcorn ceilings. But look at the kitchen. The kitchen is nice. Even though it's a little bit small and it has the white appliances, which is totally out. It's clean, nice floors. It's like you be fine cooking here right now. And this is something to keep in mind when you're looking at comps. Like it's not turnkey. It also has a fireplace, which is nice, and it has that pool. This isn't a good comparable. And I'm sure when this person posted this property for 269, they were looking at that property. They say, "Oh, over on 4324 Southeast 8th Street, they got 255. Our property is very similar, 1,500 square feet. We have 1,900. Ours is bigger. They got 255. We can at least get 270. But I'm showing you why that's not the case. This isn't a good comp. And also, it was in February. It sold in February 28th. And also to give you guys a little bit more context, this property was listed 111 days. It was listed 3 months ago. So that was maybe in March. Yeah. February, March. So I understand why they probably looked at these comps because they had just sold at that time. But also you can see just the differences in the property. Now, a property that I just found that is similar, that would be I would say maybe a better comparable to this home. I do think this property is better, much better, but you can see what properties are selling for now. And, you know, we have this one here, same city, and it is a home. They don't have pictures, and I don't know what's going on over here. They only have one picture, so that's kind of hard to gauge what we're dealing with. They don't have any garages. Let's see how many garages right here. We got a two-car garage here. I don't know what's going on here. It seemed like it. Oh yeah, no, this is a garage. I was like, maybe it was a garage and they turned it into like a sunroom. But yeah, it looks like this was a two-car garage. Maybe they converted it to something. I have no clue. They have all of these solar panels on the roof, which is attractive to some buyers, but an eyesore and a headache to others. So it all depends on what what the person is willing to purchase it for, what they want. This sold June 4th, which was yesterday, and this sold for 182,000. And this is a three bed, two bath, 2,000 square feet, so similar square footage to our property that we're speaking about. Much bigger lot. It's half an acre. And this property is newer, built in 1991 compared to 1976. And as you can see, this property is sold for 182. And I know I don't it looks like this maybe some mobile homes or some trailers or something over there. I have no idea. This is a bad picture and it's only one picture, but you can see this is actually a home. This is not a mobile home and it's not a trailer. So it is an actual home. And it sold for 182. Now I do believe this property could sell for more than 182. This is more so a comparable that you're going to want to be looking at as far as what's properties going for now, right now. Okay. So it's very important to know your numbers. And I do have in my guide that I put together for people looking to sell their properties, I have a prompt that you can use for AI. And all you do is plug this prompt in and you put your property's address in, and they'll spit out three numbers so you know exactly what your property is worth. And I'll give you guys a peek. Let me see if I can pull up something to show you an example. I maybe even 235, and as is like in the condition that it's in right now, I think it'll fall more so under that 180, 195. So I think that would be a good price point for this property. I think they should have listed it for more so or somewhere around here, maybe 195. And then if it was like a wreck and it needed like major repairs, it would fall somewhere between 160 to 175. So if you want this prompt for your property to find out what the numbers are telling you, just go ahead and get that guide. It'll be in the description for you for your use. So yeah, it's available for you as a resource if you need it, because knowing your numbers is going to be imperative, and it's going to be something that's going to set you apart in the marketplace when you're listing your property, because you want to make sure you list right so you don't have to worry about this reduction. And I see they reduced this by 15K. It's been sitting for 111 days. What's going to happen is this listing going to either expire, or they're going to have to lower and reduce that property again. Okay, so know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. The third thing that you can do is make sure you consult with a real estate professional. Make sure that if you're working with a real estate agent, is someone who is very savvy, who knows what they're doing, who knows what they're talking about, and isn't going to just tell you what you want to hear to get the listing. Because a lot of realtors, they're just in the game to get the listing, and they'll just throw your property out there for whatever you tell them. You know, they'll look at it as if they're working for you and you're helping them, versus looking at it as they're helping you. And in helping you, they have to be honest with you, and being honest with you is going to be important, because if they're being honest with you and they're telling you something that you don't want to hear, and you decide, hey, I don't want to list my property because that number that you're telling me to go with, or the decluttering that you want me to do, or the cleaning that you want me to do, or whatever you're telling me to do to my property to get it prepared, I'm not willing to do. And if they're afraid to lose, if they're like in a scarcity mindset and they're afraid to lose the listing, they're going to just do what you tell them to do. They're going to act like you're the professional and you know the market, and they're going to do what you tell them to do just to get the listing. And then you're going to be in a situation like this. So you don't want to work with that type of person. You want to work with someone who's willing to tell you the truth and willing to walk away, even if you say, hey, I'm not willing to do that, and them be fine with that. Because a good real estate agent, they have an abundance of clients, and they don't have a problem with, walking away from a client or two or 10 if they know that this is going to happen. They'll rather have this not happen and not have it put their reputation on the line versus just being desperate out of desperation, just posting listings that's going to be expired. So when you're talking to a professional, one thing that you want to have the agent do is give you their last 5 listings before you list with them. Ask them to give you their last 3 to 5 listings and do your research. Look at the property. Look at if there was reductions. Look at if it expired, if it's set on the market, and then you'll know kind of who you're dealing with and if they know what they're doing. So make sure you consult with a professional so they can help you. That's their job, to advise you on what to do to give yourself and your property the most chance at success, and tweak your property if where it's needed. And then another thing, the I think that was a 3. The fourth thing that you want to do is to make sure that they list your property. If you're working with the real estate agent, if you're working with yourself, if you're listing the property yourself, then you're going to want to make sure that you make yourself a complete, compelling listing. Okay, make sure that the listing is complete. Make sure it has beautiful photos. Make sure it has accurate details and a clear description, and highlight your home's best features. And don't forget to mention any updates that you've done, any unique selling points that you may have had. And these could be the difference maker between the success that you're probably going to have. Now, if you're working with an agent, obviously they're going to be the ones doing this, and you're going to make sure that they're doing a good job. I want to show you guys something real quick. This is a listing that I seen, and this property right here is in that same. Is it in the same city? Oh no, this one is in Miami. And this one has been on the market for 59 days. It was built in 1949. It's a 2 bed, 1 bath. And I know Miami is a great area. I'm not familiar with that market specifically in this area, but I do see it has under 900 square feet. And I understand Miami is a great area, but 700,000, come on now. So, off the top of my head, without doing any deep research, I can definitely see that this property is overpriced. Hence, why they had to reduce it $30,000, and that in itself can kind of give you an idea of where they went wrong and why this property probably won't sell. And if it does sell, it's not going to be anywhere near 695,000. But what stood out more than me is just the presentation. Like when I say get good photos, make sure your realtor get your agent gets great photos, and present your property in a way that's going to be conducive and attractive to the market. These photos is what you don't want to do. Okay? Like look at the first photo. Like I don't even know, it's like a side view instead of like a straight front up view. So it's just like, this first picture, I would probably just keep it pushing. I wouldn't even look any further just off that first picture. It doesn't make me want to see more. And as you can see, like the lighting is just not good. This is that front view photo view that I was speaking of, but the lighting just isn't good. The pictures just not aren't quality. Like if you have to hire someone, obviously your agent probably would be the person, or if you are the person, just make sure you get good photos. Or if you have a decent camera, or your smartphone, like you can get better photos than this. Anybody can get better photos with this, just with their smartphone. And it's not a bad looking property. Like this is my first time looking at these photos. So I'm just now seeing this kitchen, but the property doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad at all. And it looks like they may even had done something to it. Maybe they had did some updates, and maybe that's why they're asking what they're asking. Oh no, that's not true. Look at here. This is what you don't want. Like, why is this stuff in the photos? Like, this is just lazy. Please don't do this. Don't do this at all. Like, don't be the anxious buyer. I'm sorry, the anxious seller. Don't be the anxious seller. Don't be the desperate seller that's just so anxious and desperate to get your listing live that you're willing to put photos up like this. Like, why is a manila folder, a random teddy bear, 2 water bottles, some LED lights, some spray bottles and cleaning products, a bag of garbage, a broom, and a bucket in this photo. If I'm a buyer, why do I need to see this? And then I guess you were trying to get a picture of the. Okay. This is the stove. Like, I can't even see the stove or focus on the stove because of all the crap that's around here. Like, don't be this seller. Please don't do this. This can guarantee that your property will not sell. This right here. And these photos is just terrible. Like, these are horrible photos. Make sure you please get great photos. Some random thing here in the bathroom. Like, the property doesn't look bad. But I'm too distracted by all the random things in these pictures and all the in the bad photos that I can't even focus on the property. Like, I don't even know, this property may be worth 700,000. I doubt it, but if it is, no. I'm gonna take my 700,000 somewhere else. So make sure you guys, like, this photo is just terrible. Like, please don't be this person. Like, what is this? Why do I even need to see this picture? What about this picture is going to make me entertain buying this house? Like, garbage pails in the photo. Like, what? Like, why? Why is my neighbor cars in this photo? Please, please, please don't be this seller, and do not work with an agent that's going to let you go out like this. Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Now, I do understand that everyone is in different situations, and you do have some people that are selling their properties while they're still living in it, or they may have someone living there. And I'm going to show you two examples of how to present your property if someone is living there versus good way to do it and a not so good way. So with this property here, another property that I think came up as a comp for this one is going to be this property right here. And this property also sold in February around the time when they were looking to list. And it sold for 329,000. Now, I also want you all to take these prices with a grain of salt, because one thing about the market and real estate, we don't know how these properties were financed. And if this property right here in particular, this may have been financed through seller financing. And if it's financed through seller financing, the price point is going to be substantially more. So it sold for 329,000. We can almost guarantee that that wasn't a cash deal, and we can almost guarantee that this property didn't sell as a retail purchase. That they probably didn't get a mortgage through the bank. It probably was some other type of funding, because this property is still a bit older. It's still outdated. So it kind of still falls under a fixer upper. It's not a property that someone would go get a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage for. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not common. And the reason why I'll say it probably isn't, because when you're getting a mortgage through a bank, what they do is do appraisals, and there's a lot of hoops that the property will have to jump through to get that approved before the bank release those funds. So please take it with a grain of salt when we're looking at these prices, because we don't know how it was funded, and how it was funded makes a huge difference. But as we can see, this property has someone living here, but you couldn't tell because it just looks clean. It looks nice. It's staged. It looks staged properly. So if you live in your property still and you're looking to sell it, just make sure when you get your photos, you just make it look nice. Okay? Just make it look nice, like this property. It looks very nice. It doesn't look cluttered. It doesn't look dirty. It doesn't look like the family woke up that morning and said, "Oh yeah, realtor, come on in here and get a couple photos," and it's just stuff laying around and just not attractive. Like, obviously still a little older, still a little outdated, but even see their cleaning products. Like, someone lives here, but they just did a really really great job of making sure that it was staged properly. So whatever agent that they worked with, they gave them great insight on how to make this property look attractive. And even more importantly, they have great photos. They have really, really great photos. Nice, bright, clean, you know, everything that's in the photo is something that, you know, brings that main point to the forefront. It makes the photos make sense. Like you want to see this. You want to see the area and everything in the photos make sense. So if you live in your property and you're listing it, just make sure you get photos like this, and you make sure that your realtor um, helps you get photos like this. Now I'm going to show you an example of this done the wrong way here as well. Now we have this property that's currently for sale, and someone lives here. They're looking to sell it, and they live here as well. They still live here. So let's look at some photos here. The photos aren't bad. They're not bad photos. But I more so just want to show you an example of like getting the property ready before you list it. So so as you can see here, it's it's not it's just a lot going on. It's just it still looks a bit just like it's no covers on the bed. It's You can see the mattress. I don't know what this is on the floor. It's outdated, but it's a fixer upper. We know that. That's not a big deal. Like we got soap in this bottle. Like get that stuff out for the photo. Like during staging, like get that stuff out the way. That shouldn't be there. It doesn't make it attractive. Like look at this. Someone lives here and they just didn't do a good job of prepping the place. And this is what you don't want to do. And I've seen worse. This isn't the worst that I've seen that's currently listed. But this is not what you want. I don't know what this stuff is here. It just has a lot going on. Like this is how you don't want yours to look. And I get it, it's not as nice of a house as the last one we just seen, but you can make your property look decent without having to do too much. Like clean this up. Like clean this up. Just make it nicer. And they just didn't do a good job. So this is how you don't want to stage your house if you live in it. Kitchen isn't horrible, but like you see, they got stuff, whatever this is. It's just unnecessary stuff around that just doesn't make the property look attractive. What is this? Like, if I'm a buyer looking at this, I might not like this team, and you have this up there. Like, take all of this down, at least just for the photos for the listing. Like, get this stuff out of here, please, immediately. So just keep that in mind when you are prepping your property. Like, look at come on, tampons, oh god, throw this stuff in a closet and shut it when you guys are staging your property and getting it ready. Like this towel, like this looks terrible. Don't be this seller. Don't don't be. You can make this house look much more attractive without having to do much. Just cleaning it up a little better, putting all that stuff. I mean, I know it's your things. You live with it. You need it every day. But as a buyer coming in, to me, it just looks like junk. So clean up all the junk, throw all the junk in the closet, and get your house, make your house look more so like that last property we just looked at, like much more attractive. And both of these sellers live in the property. So all because you live there, that doesn't mean that has to be a burden when you're listing your property. So this is ways that you can compete in the current market just to make sure your property looks more attractive, and then also in your listing, depending on your situation, if you are in a position where you can do some type of creative financing or creative purchasing options, make sure you have your realtor, or if you're listing it yourself, make sure you have that in your listing. That's important because that is going to bring on another pool of buyers that you're not going to uh that's not going to be available to you if you don't. Okay, that is a way to surely get much more buyers interested in your property, and just make sure that your descriptions are good and all of that. And if you need any help with any of the things that we talked about today, just go ahead and look in the description. There's all type of resources that I have in there for you. There's something for everyone. And if by any chance there's something, that you need or you want that is not in there, just drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to accommodate you. And now I'd just like to say thank you for watching this video. Thank you for taking the time to educate yourself about the market and about giving your property the best chance. That is going to be your best opportunity to get your property sold for what you want, and not, having to get lowball offers, or even worse, have your property expire or just not sell and just get, uninterested people, unserious people, tire kickers, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I hope I brought value to you with this video. Continue to tap in with me, subscribe, and I'll be posting more videos similar to this and other topics in the space of the real estate market and selling properties and buying properties and things of that nature. Until the next one, peace.